Time to recap week 4 of the New Jersey high school football season and look ahead to week 5, the last weekend of October for games. We have a big show ahead. Welcome to the Red Zone Home Show. Welcome to the Red Zone Home Show. I'm Ryan Ross. Thank you for tuning in live. Hard to believe, episode 6 already of the season. We have a lot of fun planned ahead for today's show. To get us started, let's start, as always, with Steve Falk from the Asbury Park Press and Darren Cooper from NorthJersey.com. Guys, welcome back. Just kind of plugging along with this season. Hard to believe we have one more weekend of games in October before we turn the calendar to November. Steve, we'll start with you. Some results from the previous week, some individual performances that stood out to you, plus a look ahead to what we have coming in week 5.
Yeah, Toms over North and Jackson produced two of the best performances you're seeing in the state anywhere this year. Toms over North senior quarterback Jake Kazanowski accounted for all 6 of the Mariners' touchdowns, 5 passing, 1 rushing, 422 yards of total offense. And Jackson Memorial senior tailback Will Towns accounted for all 6 of his team's touchdowns, 5 rushing and a career-high 300 yards rushing, and a punt return for a touchdown. Toms over North built a 15-point lead and held on for a 42-40 win, unlike any Jackson Toms over North game I've ever seen or heard of. Also, a brilliant performance by the Toms over South defense in its 15-12 win over previously unbeaten Southern. The Indians came up with 5 turnovers, one of which was a 73-yard fumble return for a touchdown by Elijah Metellus. That Tyler Matteo also had 2 interceptions, and the Indians held Southern standout junior tailback Jaiden Brown, who we'll hear from later, to only 121 yards. Now, looking ahead to this week, last week we talked about the Shore Conference Pod 4, the top Pod 4. If they go that way, the 4th spot might be settled at Mater Dei Prep on Saturday when the Seraphs host RUMSON-FAIR. RUMSON-FAIR is currently ranked 4 in the Shore. Mater Dei is currently ranked 5 in the Shore. They both have a loss to Red Bank Catholic. I would expect a defensive-oriented game here. It will be a battle between Rumson's run offense led by John Volker and Mater Dei's defense led by Dominic Judice. Also in the Shore, we have 2 more shutdowns. Jackson Liberty shut down its entire athletic program, and its game with Lakewood this week is in limbo. Shore Regional has a COVID-19 case, and their game last week with St. Thomas Aquinas, which was a last-minute addition to the schedule, was canceled, and its game with Asbury Park is canceled. And COVID's becoming a major issue again, unfortunately, around the state. 36 games were canceled around the state last week, and so far since the start of the season, 20% of the teams around the state have been affected by some sort of COVID issue, including a big-name team up your way, Darren.
Hey, Steve. Thank you, my friend. Yes, indeed. I'll start by talking about the best game I saw. We have a new team that's number 1 in North Jersey. It's Clifton. The Mustangs are 4-0 now. They took down Montclair in a game. First time these 2 teams have met since 2009. We didn't quite hit. I lost track of all the touchdowns you were talking about, Steve. But that guy right there, number 14, Caleb Bonaparte, had 4 touchdowns for Clifton as they came back from 13-0 down to beat Montclair 28-23, and they are the new public school number 1 team in North Jersey. But yes, Steve, as you alluded to, COVID has become to really take over up here, up north. The big one, Don Bosco Prep, having to bench themselves for 2 weeks. They lost their game against St. Joe's. They were supposed to play Bergen Catholic in a game a lot of people talk about. People think that it's a big game. That game on Halloween, that game is now actually late breaking news about an hour ago. That game is now going to be played on Thanksgiving. But Steve, question for you. I'm kind of curious to know what they're talking about down the shore. Have we gotten to like a point of no return here? Is it getting a little ridiculous with all these cancellations and teams dropping in and out?
I don't know if we've gotten to the point of no return, but I think people are concerned with what's going on. They are worried about whether we're going to get to the finish line. And let's face it, we got 4 weeks and Thanksgiving Day to go. And if cases continue to rise, somewhere along the line, some school administration is going to say, why do we want to continue the season? We've gotten X number of games in. Do we want to play 2 pod games? Do we want to play Thanksgiving Day? I don't know. And down here, they're actually adding a Thanksgiving game. The two Middletown schools who are going to play Friday night have tentatively added a Thanksgiving Day game due to outside pressure from parents who want tradition to continue, but this may not be the year for tradition to continue, and they're playing the game Friday night anyway.
I think we're at least at the stage where we should start asking the question.
Yes.
And maybe the thought might be, hey, let's get our 6 regular season games in. Forget this pod business. Everybody get healthy. We'll all play on Thanksgiving. We'll have a great time. We'll all go home safe and happy.
And of course, for whatever might develop, Steve and his colleagues at the Asbury Park Press, Darren and colleagues at NorthJersey.com will keep you updated. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but of course we'll be on top of things no matter what happens news-wise and COVID shutdown related in terms of football. So that's it for our first segment. We're going to take a look first now at the scene. We're going to go around the state and check out some of the best images of the week, and we'll also update our top 10. And when we get done with that, it's time to talk to South and Central Jersey. We'll check in there. Stick ahead and let's check out the scene now and go around the state. Back here on the Red Zone Home Show, Ryan Ross, thank you for tuning in live. It's time to visit now South Jersey and Central Jersey, checking all the results there and look ahead to Week 5. And, of course, joining us first, we have from CourierPostOnline.com, Josh Friedman, and from MyCentralJersey.com, it's Greg Tafaro. Guys, welcome back to the show. Josh, let's start with you down in South Jersey. Some big results coming from Week 4, plus a nice showdown to look ahead in Week 5.
Yeah, actually, this was the first week kind of rankings held true. This is our first time our South Jersey 15 didn't change all season, or at least our top 10 didn't change all season. But the best game, actually, I happened to be at the best game, I think, last week. Cherokee, number 3 in our rankings, narrowly avoided an upset over winless Shawnee. Winless is speaking. They play a tough schedule, but it was 24-21 Cherokee. Cherokee's Brandon Boreas scored in the final minute to put the Cherokee ahead. Shawnee quarterback Matt Wellesley was simply outstanding last week. Probably avoided at least 10 to 12 sacks in the backfield. You see him scoring a touchdown right there. That put Shawnee ahead late. And then Cherokee came back and won. Also saw one of the best one-handed interceptions I've ever seen by Mark Phillips at Cherokee in that game. Truly one of the best games I've seen in the last 5 years. But Cherokee pulled it out. They still stay in our top 10 in the state, number 3 in South Jersey. And then what was our game of the week, Winslow, Washington Township. Winslow defense really dominated, won 32-14 over Washington Township. Jaiden Brown had a pick 6. I believe that's what you're seeing right here. And then Emerald Mitchell had a fumble return for a touchdown as well. That defense is one of the best in South Jersey, if not the state. They're making a statement 4-0 for the first time since 2007. As far as this week's coming up, we have some bye weeks in South Jersey. It's not the deepest schedule, but a special one coming up. Number 7, St. Augustine at number 1, Williamstown. St. Augustine is the only team to beat Williamstown from South Jersey since the start of 2018. That was last year. St. Augustine won 21-7. Williamstown has not forgotten that. Williamstown still number 1 in South Jersey, though. They were our team of the year last year despite that loss. Defense is still outstanding. They had their 7th shutout in the last 16 games played, I should say. 7 shutout in the last 16 games played last week. So their defense is outstanding as well. Donovan Ezraku leads that group. As far as St. Augustine's concerned, they've bounced back from that week 1 loss against Millville to put up 2 straight wins, and they want to make their statement again against Williamstown. Some people say Williamstown was a little banged up last year during that loss. So I think St. Augustine wants to prove it was no fluke. It should be a special game. I kind of, this is one of those games that you wish there was no COVID issues going on, because the place would be packed if it wasn't. And speaking of COVID, again, you heard it in North Jersey. We have an experience. Every week it's a couple new teams down here as well. Hamilton, top 15 team for us, is down. You have Washington Township just went down. And Williamsboro is also down. And really one of the teams that hits hardest for is Clearview. We mentioned, it was said earlier that, these teams maybe take a few days off, during those pods and not play and just play on Thanksgiving. Well, you look at a team like Clearview, they missed the first 3 weeks for COVID, played their first game last week, and they were supposed to play Washington Township this week. And then they can't play because Washington Township's down. So they've only played one game so far in October, unless they get another game rescheduled here for this week. You talk about a team that's really had, just bad luck. That would be it. And I understand why certainly they would want to play pod weeks or certainly into November, because they haven't had any chances.
Of course, we'll be talking about it, unfortunately, all season, just an unfortunate part of this 2020 football season. And we'll be on top of things, like I said, in Courier Post Online in South Jersey and my Central Jersey, of course, in Central Jersey. Speaking of, let's bring in Greg Tafaro. Greg, some Week 4 results setting up some big matchups in Week 5.
Yeah, it was a big weekend with big upsets in the Big Central Football Conference, Ryan, at least according to USA Today Network New Jersey statewide top 25 poll. So defending North 2 Group 5 champion Union went to St. Joseph of Metuchen, which was previously undefeated and state ranked, and the Farmers upset St. Joseph by a score of 25-0, limiting St. Joseph to 25 yards of total offense from scrimmage. Union loaded with skill position players. We just saw Davison Igbinosun there score a touchdown. His older brother, Desmond Igbinosun, is committed to Rutgers University. Union lost a lot to graduation last year, including All-State quarterback Andrew Sanborn, and its offensive line was also decimated by graduation. But Terrell Cannon comes back from an injury this year. He's a key two-way lineman who's a bona fide Division I prospect, and he'll be lined up alongside Chris Williams. Remember number 52, Chris Williams? He had 3 sacks against St. Joe's. Now, Union's remaining schedules against Elizabeth and Watchung Hills, who we'll touch on in a moment. And I'm telling you, the Farmers are going to be so tough to beat down the stretch because everything is starting to gel and come together for them. They hadn't lost 2 games in a row since the 2017 season, and they entered that St. Joe's game having lost consecutive contests by an average, yielding an average of 36.5 points a game. Again, the contrast, how they performed against St. Joe's was significant. To St. Joseph's defense, we talk about COVID thus far on the show. St. Joseph had been in quarantine for 2 weeks, only had one full day to prepare for Union. So again, Union's season finale will be against Watchung Hills, and Watchung Hills, coached by Rich Subert, a former New York Giants offensive lineman and a member of the franchise's last Super Bowl championship team, has orchestrated a remarkable turnaround at Watchung Hills. The Warriors were just 2 years ago 0-10, and they are off to a 3-0 start. Quarterback Chad Martini, pictured there, threw 2 touchdown passes in the final 3 minutes as Watchung Hills scored an improbable 21-20 comeback victory over Phillipsburg, which was undefeated and state ranked. Watchung Hills had not defeated Phillipsburg in school history. The State Liners owned a 20-0 record going into that game. When you consider Watchung Hills, its 2 previous wins prior to the Phillipsburg game against opponents that had outscored them 83-10 2 years ago. That illustrates that remarkable turnaround. I'm referring to Hunterdon and Central and Hillsborough, teams that Watchung Hills beat earlier. Next up on deck for Watchung Hills is a always challenging Montgomery team whose offense is a nightmare to prepare for. But again, the job that Rich Subert and his staff have done at Watchung Hills, 0-10 2 years ago, 3-0 now, and a newcomer to our state rankings.
Absolutely, Greg. A big turnaround there. And of course, we will be following Week 5 in Central Jersey and South Jersey. Greg and Josh will come back later in the show to make their predictions. And you heard Josh mention, too, that team down in Winslow. And speaking of them, Chris Melvin will be joining us now for Chris Melvin's Recruiting Corner. And he's going to be highlighting one of those players from Winslow Township. So let's check in with Chris.
Hey, this is Chris Melvin. Welcome to another edition of the Chris Melvin Recruiting Corner. This week we're headed down to South Jersey to Winslow Township, where we'll be highlighting 6'1", 190-pound corner Jalen Cheek, who happens to be committed to the Boston College Eagles. Jalen received his first offer from UMass with a total of 16. And thanks to a 4.0 GPA, he also received interest from Yale and from Harvard. But he picked BC on May 1st, 2020, after former Ohio State defensive coordinator and current Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley showed some love and selling him on BC's strong academics. Jalen calls it the Hafley effect. At Winslow Township, Cheek has lined up at quarterback and wide receiver for the Eagles, but prefers playing cornerback. Blessed with hard-hitting, aggressive, yet fundamentally sound ability at corner, Cheek has impressive closing speed and top jamming skills that enables him to throw receivers off their intended routes. As a junior in 2019, Cheek collected 41 tackles, 1 sack, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, and even blocked a punt. Jalen has been ranked as low as number 9 in the class of 2021 for the state of New Jersey. So when asked, who's the top corner in the state? Jalen responded, me for sure. That's a confident young man right there.
Back here on the Red Zone Home Show, Ryan Ross here. Thank you for tuning in live. It's time for the interview portion of our program, and to do that, we are going to welcome in from the Daily Record in Morris County, sports reporter Jane Havsey and the head coach at J.F. Kennedy High School, Tarig Holman. Guys, thank you for joining us today. And the point of this discussion is to go over an article that Jane wrote about a week ago, highlighting the number of black high school football coaches and teachers in the state, and really just some, the smaller numbers that we're seeing in terms of the amount of black head coaches we have in New Jersey. So, Jane, let's begin with you and just take us through your reporting. And for those who might have missed the article, just give us a synopsis of what you found.
Well, I've actually been working on this story since before the football season started. The New Jersey Football Coaches Association had pointed out when Parsippany hired Derek Eatman as its head coach that there were fewer than 40 black head coaches in the state among the more than 330 programs. So it's about 10%. And I interviewed 4 different coaches, among them Tarig Holman and his brother Austin, both of whom are straight out of Randolph. So we'll give the Morris County shout out there. And as well as Derek Eatman, who's I think one of the Holman's boys, and Derek Sellers, who's the longtime athletic director at Lindenwold in South Jersey, who's trying to start a bit of a pipeline to try to get more black head coaches in the state of New Jersey.
And Coach, in Jane's article too, the quote that stood out to me actually came from your brother Austin, as Jane mentioned, a head coach in football as well, where he asked, kind of just thinking out loud, how is this possible? So I'm curious to get your thoughts. How is this possible, and what are some maybe solutions we can have?
I think first of all, it's important to realize and recognize the tremendous amount of talent that we have throughout the state as far as some of the high school coaches are concerned. I heard Chris Melvin mentioned Winslow Township down in South Jersey. Coach Scott has done a tremendous job down there. Also, there's Coach Savage down there. There's Coach Everett down there, and there's a tremendous amount of talent among black and minority head coaches throughout the course of the state. So I think one of the things that as far as the issue is concerned is that we got to look at high school athletics as just a platform and an extension of the classroom. And when you do that, I think you look at the educational situation that we're trying to put together. And in order to do that, we definitely have to make sure that there is a cultural there can't be a cultural divide or a cultural disparity among that, because whenever we do that, we're doing a disservice for our students and our student athletes as well.
And Coach, you've been involved as a teacher and a coach at programs around the state, so you've been around a lot of young men, a lot of young people in your teaching as well. What role does the future generation, the younger people that you're around every day, what role do they play in shaping the future and changing this?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, just like racism and social injustice is a learned behavior. As teachers and coaches, I think one of the tasks that we are going to be measured on is our ability to impact that. And I know that myself, growing up in St. Louis and then moving out to New Jersey and being and having the opportunity to live in the city, as well as live in the suburbs and having the opportunity to coach in the city and coach in the suburbs, you can see that the impact that you're able to have as a teacher and a coach is very similar. And my coaching and teaching career has kind of mimicked that as well. And one of the things I'm most proud of is being able to have a positive impact and see the impact that I can have, not only as a Black man and as a Black coach, but just as a teacher on these kids that are from a diverse culturally, background, socioeconomic status, all that kind of thing. So, and it's not just me. That's why, we've kind of gotten together to try to create the Minority Coaches Association, where myself, along with a lot of other head coaches across the state, have come together to try to, with our aim to connect, support, and empower other minority coaches throughout the state.
And Jane, in your reporting on this too, was there anything in particular that really stood out to you as you were assembling this story, or maybe surprised you?
Well, maybe it's because I'm an elementary school teacher's kid and I came from New York City, but what really stood out is the fact that only 2% of public school teachers nationwide are Black men. I've had teachers who were Black men before, and it never occurred to me that they may be the only one in the school, like Tarig was in Randolph, or like the only one even in a district like Austin was, which is how he came up with the quote of "How is this possible?"
And again, read Jane's story. It was written for the Daily Record. It appeared in papers and all over the USA Today Network, New Jersey. So if you missed it, be sure to go back and check it out. And Coach, too, just let's talk about your team. Of course, this has been a crazy season, but how's the team holding up, and how are you guys getting ready for this week?
Yeah, we're excited to be able to get back out after being down for going into our second week. It's tough when you're coming in to a new program as a first-year head coach, and you're trying to develop a staff and you're trying to connect with the kids, and it's difficult as it is to normally do with the COVID pandemic that's going on right now. It's made it even more difficult. But I think one of the things that we do is we relish the opportunity to really to be together, and we're just looking forward to getting back out there on the field on Thursday. And we're actually going to go up and play against one of my good friends, and Derek Eatman at Parsippany High School on a Monday. So we get a chance to play some Monday night football coming up. We're really excited about it, and we're just gracious to have the opportunity.
And I have to mention it because we mentioned it in the pregame or pre-show as we were talking, Coach. But anyone unfamiliar with Coach Holman, go ahead and plug his name into YouTube. You might stumble across a video of him intercepting Tom Brady back in college during his playing days at Iowa. Coach, do you get asked about that a lot?
Yeah, I do. I hate that someone found the video because the stories that I could tell could be a lot better than the stories that now they can go on YouTube and see. I was going to say that I picked them off. It was the last play of the game. I returned it for a touchdown, and he was an All-American and all this other kind of stuff. But it's a great opportunity. I had some really, really good times at Iowa. I had some great teammates. I had an opportunity to play for Coach Fry and Coach Ferentz, who's there currently, at a national program and at a college university and a part of the Big Ten. So that was a great experience for me, and that's my goal as a coach, is just to allow some of my student athletes to have some of the great experiences that I've had, and develop some of the great relationships with other people that I've been able to establish as well.
Well, Coach, appreciate you coming on the show with us, and not only having some fun with us too, but talking about, of course, a very important topic. And a thanks to Jane as well for researching this topic and getting the information out there. Again, read Jane's article from the Daily Record. Jane and Coach, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. I really appreciate it. Go Mustangs.
Thank you, Coach. And we'll hear from Jane, too, later in the show to predict a Morris County game. Before we do that, we're going to head down to Southern Regional for a 100-yard walk. And we're going to check in with Chris Eisman, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They were winners this past week. We'll hear from him. And then when we come back, it's prediction time.
We're here at Southern Regional High School with Rams junior running back linebacker Jaiden Brown, and we're about to walk 100 yards. Tell me about what makes this team so good.
We all play hard. We all play hard. Every day in practice, we go in just to be better than we were the previous day. Which position do you like more, running back or linebacker? Probably running back. Get the scores, touchdowns.
Who is your favorite running back to watch?
I mean, he's hurt right now, but it's Saquon Barkley.
Why?
Just because I feel like he's able to do everything. Like, he got speed, power, strength, able to break long runs, break tackles. Like, he can do it all.
He's Southern Regional's junior running back and linebacker, Jaiden Brown. I'm Steve Falk of the USA Today Network, New Jersey, and that was 100 yards.
Chris Eisman from the USA Today Network, New Jersey. I'm standing outside Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan, where we just watched Rutgers beat Michigan State 38-27. What a day for the Scarlet Knights. What a day for the return of Greg Schiano to officially begin. Rutgers had 7 takeaways today. Fantastic performance by the defense. Noah Vedral played really, really well at quarterback, makes a lot of smart plays, a lot of really timely, crucial plays that kept drives going. He made some big plays with his arm and some of his legs. He had a 24-yard touchdown run. Just a really convincing win for Rutgers. But, you know, Greg Schiano's not getting too carried away with this. You know, he said it's just a start. You know, a lot of tough games to go. But this is something to at least build off of, no question. Next game for Rutgers is next week against Indiana in Piscataway. So we'll see what Rutgers can do. Follow along all week at app.com and northjersey.com for previews of the game against Indiana and more from this big Rutgers victory.
All right, our thanks to Chris Eisman there out in East Lansing. Be sure to follow him for all of your Rutgers Scarlet Knights football. Welcome back to the Red Zone Home Show. Ryan Ross here. Thank you for watching live, and it's now time to get into our Red Zone Pick Six. That's our prediction segment. And again, we're kicking the extra point this week because we're actually going to predict 7 games. And we're going to start up north with Darren in St. Peters and DePaul.
Hey, you know, St. Peter's Prep still is number 1 in the USA Today Network New Jersey poll, but they have a tough one coming up against DePaul. Taj Bullock missed some of the game. That's the St. Peter's Prep quarterback against Paramus Catholic the other day. I think DePaul will challenge Peters. One of these matchup games where DePaul can match up with St. Peter's Prep a little bit, but I still give the nod to the Marauders. My pick is St. Peter's Prep.
Steve, too, at the shore, we have Rumson-Fairhaven and Mater Dei, a game you're talking about a little bit earlier.
And these teams have played almost exactly the same schedule. They've played the same teams. They both have lost to Red Bank Catholic. Mater Dei's offense has been up and down. It struggled against Red Bank Catholic. It clicked a little bit against Middletown North. It struggled against Middletown South, and it clicked a little bit against Long Branch last week. Rumson's loss to Red Bank Catholic was mainly due to turnovers. Rumson has a big play running back in John Volker. They've done a little bit better defensively against some of those teams than Mater Dei has. So I'm going to go with Rumson-Fairhaven to improve to 4-1 and make the case to be the number 14 in the short conference top pod if the short conference does it that way.
Top pod.
Out of Central Jersey, Greg, we have those tough Barons out of Woodbridge taking on Clifton.
I think this is the marquee public school matchup in the state this weekend. Both teams undefeated, both state ranked, both have a common opponent. Clifton beating Colonia 31-20, Woodbridge beating Colonia 34-0. My colleague Greg Matura will be covering this game for the USA Today Network New Jersey. These teams are balanced in the run-pass game, each with more than 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards passing. I'm picking Woodbridge. Ali Lee Jr. will be the difference maker.
And now for the first time this season, let's go to Morris County. Jane is back on the show with us. We have Mount Olive and West Morris.
West Morris is 4-0. Mount Olive's 4-0. This could decide the SFC Freedom Blue. So I don't like making picks, but Ryan says I have to. So I am going with the West Morris Mystique to make this 7 straight wins over Mount Olive.
Sorry to have to pull the pick out of you, Jane, but you did a great job there. Thanks for that. Let's head down to South Jersey to Josh. Williamstown and St. Augustine.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, Williamstown hasn't forgotten that St. Augustine beat them last year, ruined that perfect season. Defense is still outstanding for Williamstown. St. Augustine's still very strong, but I keep telling people, you know, people ask me who's the number 1 team in South Jersey. I say, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and I still say Williamstown's number 1. I say that continues. Williamstown takes down St. Augustine and maintains that top spot.
Anytime we can work a Ric Flair quote into the show, you know it's going to be a good day. Let's go to North Jersey one more time. Darren, Beckton, and Hasbrook Heights.
Yeah, Josh, you let me down. No woo there. No woo. All right, we got Beckton and Hasbrook Heights. These are 2 teams that play like stadium like 2 miles apart, but have only played twice because Beckton's always been a bit of a bigger school. The Wildcats are really looking forward to this game. They've had some COVID issues, some stuff messed around on their schedule. Beckton's just loaded. I think I picked them earlier this year. I think they're going to beat Hesburgh Heights for the first time in school history. My pick is Beckton.
All right, last but not least, our number one team from the Jersey Shore, Wall, taking on an old Thanksgiving rival in Manasquan.
And we talked before about tradition maybe having to take a back seat this year. This is the perfect example of that. These teams have played on Thanksgiving Day for 20 straight years. It's one of the best rivalries on the shore, one of the most passionate rivalries on the shore. But COVID has forced this game to be in the body of the season this year, which is a good thing to make sure the game is played. I hope some of the people in Middletown who are forcing their administration to play a second Thanksgiving Day are listening to this. But Wall did not play last week because of COVID at Manalapan. They've been chomping at the bit probably to get back on the field. Their last game was an impressive 22-0 win over Jackson Memorial. They have Casey Larkin at running back and defensive back, Logan Peters at quarterback and defensive back. Manasquan sophomore quarterback Brett Patton has had a huge year throwing 4 touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks. But Wall's a step up in class, so I think the Crimson Knights will find a way to shut Manasquan down and win again.
And, of course, for all of the results and analysis and any news that we might get throughout the week, stick with all of the sites of USA Today Network New Jersey. That's going to do it for our show this week. Thanks to Darren, Steve, Jane, Josh, Greg, Chris Melvin, Coach Holman. Thanks to Paul and Mike and Tani behind the scenes. Did you guys notice the spooky red zone graphic that we have with the bats and the spiders coming off of it? I love that stuff. Happy Halloween to everyone out there. I'm Ryan Ross. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Red Zone Home Show.